Hello everyone, this is John Little here, and I just want to make a video and just share a few thoughts about what's going on in the world, what's going on in the United States. Basically, what's going on in the United States is an agenda that's a global agenda, and it's going on all around the world. And unfortunately, most people have no clue. They have no idea, really, what's actually going on. And the reason why most people have no idea what's going on is because we all have been socially conditioned, indoctrinated our entire lives to have a certain worldview. And when people have been believing something that they've been taught from a very young age, and you're immersed in it day by day, your whole life, it's extremely hard for people to think outside of the box and look at something from a different point of view. But at this point in time, it's vital for society to start looking at things from a different point of view than the way that we've been indoctrinated our entire lives. Because basically, to be point blank about it, our future depends on it. And when I look here in America and I look at all the division, I mean, it's worse. It gets worse every day. And I've never seen so many people be so biased and even at young ages now. I think social media plays a part on it, that people have gotten so political and so divided that the American people, and I know it's no different all around the world, they look at the people with different points of view as the enemy. And the reason why that is like that, and the reason why it keeps getting worse, is because it's designed to be that way. Our whole entire lives, we've been taught, we've been indoctrinated, we've been socially conditioned to have a certain worldview. We've been taught that certain things are the way they are because that's just the way it is, and that's just the way it's been designed. And so it's very hard for people to think outside the box. Some people, and I'm one of those, that I've always kind of been a nonconformist, and I do think outside of the box. Now, I have been trapped into the whole political party, believing in politics and thinking all that stuff is for real. I've definitely been trapped in it. But thankfully, I've had this instinct to question things at times. Thank God. But for most people, unfortunately, it's very hard for them to question what they believe and what they've been taught. Because it's pretty humbling when you are willing to analyze something, when you are searching for the truth, and you're willing to follow the truth wherever it leads you and let the chips fall where they may. It can be humbling because you got to admit to yourself that, whoa, wow, I was wrong. And so that's really, I think one of the big stumbling blocks. And it's just very hard for people to question things that they've never even thought about questioning. It's one of those things that people don't know what they don't know. So that's the problem. That's the challenge of it all. And here's the facts. And this may be shocking to some people. What we've been taught about politics, we've been taught something that it's a worldview and it's a perspective that benefits a small group of people. Very sinister group of people, very evil. In fact, the most evil people in the world. And these are not just people, this is not people from the United States. It's not people that has any certain loyalty to a specific government or country. This is a group of people that is basically their main loyalty is to, you can call it a cult, you can call it a cabal, you can call it a network of secret societies and secret organizations and bloodline families. That's where their loyalty is at. And it's not for countries, it's not for nations. In fact, their cult, which is the very cult of Satan himself and the demons, the fallen angels, and their agenda is for a one-world government with a one-world religion and to have complete control over everything and everybody to the extreme that most people cannot even wrap their minds around it. What they've done, and I've written books, like I said, I've written 3 books on this, talking about what I refer to them in general terms as the Illuminati. And I'm not specifically talking about the Bavarian Illuminati of 1776. That's just a manifestation of them, and a specific agenda that they wanted to guide the entire world. But anyway, this is a cult that's been around for millenniums. These are the ones that you can trace their agendas and lineage even back to the most ancient of civilizations. Ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, ancient Sumer, and so on and so on. You can find writings that talk about these people, or even from these people, of their religion. And they're alive, very alive today, and they have more power now than they ever have. Because what they've managed to do is they've managed to infiltrate every government, every institution, every world religion, universities, these Ivy League colleges. They control every bit of the media, mainstream media. And I can go on and on and on of everything that they have hijacked, infiltrated, and co-opted and taken over. And it really doesn't, they don't have to have control of everybody in every parts of these levels of different institutions and governments. They just put their people at the highest places of power. And so this is hard for people to understand, and I'm going to say something that I know that I'm sure some of you all will not be able to accept. But they have infiltrated every government on the planet, basically. Now, they have greater control over some governments than they do others, but they're working on it. And they most definitely have infiltrated and controlled the United States. The United States, we think the United States, we fly a red, white, and blue flag, but the government that has control over this country, their flag might as well be a flag with a Illuminati pyramid with an all-seeing eye through it. If you want to have some kind of idea of who these people are and some of the symbolism that represents them, just look at the American $1 bill and look at the back of it. You got your all-seeing eye. You've got all kinds of Illuminati symbolism on it. You got the pyramid, you got the all-seeing eye. You have in Latin, which translates out to New World Order. That's who controls our government. And they've, at this point, I mean, it started off, they infiltrated little by little, and throughout the centuries, they have control. Some of the manifestations of this cabal in the United States, where you really see them working, is these secret organizations such as the Council on Foreign Relations, which, as the late, great Myron Fagan calls it the Illuminati in America. You'll also find Illuminati organizations such as the Trilateral Commission. Some of this stuff may sound familiar to you because that is Illuminati created organizations of one world, New World Order control. And they have these different organizations throughout the world in different countries. And so our country and our government is not what we've been led to believe, unfortunately. Now, I love my country, the United States. Now, the government, on the other hand, no, because I understand what this government is and who controls this government. And when it comes to political parties, it's all fake. Every bit of it is fake now. Elections are fake. Used to, it was accurate to say that elections were rigged, but they're not even rigged anymore. They're completely fake. They're just mock elections where they pretend to count the votes and give you the results and tell you who was elected by the votes of the people. That's all a big show. They don't even have to do that now. Used to, they would have to have, the Illuminati used to have their agents count the votes. That way they can manipulate the vote count and then make sure they get who they wanted in there to be the head puppet. And that's what presidents are and other politicians. They're just puppets. No real power. But now, then they would use the voting machines, electronic voting machines, and they would be able to manipulate counts like that. But anymore, the only thing that they have to do is give the numbers on the screen, on the mainstream media, which they control, they own and control, and tell you what the results are. But when it comes to the president being elected, they don't have to convince the population or manipulate about, who's going to be in there. They know who's going to be in there. The presidents are chosen by the Illuminati, through organizations and societies like the Bilderberg Group. That's one of the places where they decide who the American president's going to be. And they're chosen, they're groomed. These politicians don't work their way up to it. They don't get elected. They are selected. And that's just the way it is. And most politicians in the higher echelons of politics anymore are groomed for those positions, and they are placed there, and they just go through the charade of elections to make it look like they got elected. And one thing that you will know, if you do your research and look into these things, every one of these politicians are parts of secret societies like Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, and especially other organizations. Anymore, you're starting to see more and more politicians coming from Illuminati organizations like the World Economic Forum. Even prime ministers and presidents from other countries have come straight from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. And just like Putin, Vladimir Putin, we all think that Putin is like the big enemy of the West. But guess where he was trained? He was trained and groomed by the World Economic Forum in the Young Global Leaders Program. And under Klaus Schwab, I don't know if you've ever seen Klaus Schwab. The dude looks like a Bond villain. In fact, I'll pull up a picture of him. Oops. Klaus Schwab. Yeah, check this dude out. Yeah, he was over the World Economic Forum. He's no longer, he's the founder of it. I'm sure he still has plenty of influence in it, but he was the one bragging about how he trained Vladimir Putin. Guess who else was groomed and trained through the Young Global Leaders Program? Tony Blair. And I can name more and more, but What the World Economic Forum is, this is where politicians from all around the world, prime ministers, presidents, even celebrities, technocrats, I can get into technocracy because that's one of the things I want people to understand. I'm telling you this because I'm trying to get people to understand how much influence the Illuminati has and how much control and some of the avenues that they use to stack cabinets and administrations with their people. What happens at Davos, they have annual meetings there in Switzerland, and you will have Klaus Schwab bringing in people like Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, the Clintons. Let me pull up a picture, show you, just so you could understand. Right here, as you can see, Vladimir Putin at the World Economic Forum getting his marching orders from that Illuminati organization, and seeing him right there. You can see him shaking hands with Saint and Klaus Schwab. Let me show you something else. There's Klaus Schwab and Donald Trump. Donald Trump going over to the World Economic Forum to get his marching orders. Now notice Donald Trump. See that Illuminati hand sign he's using right there? I see him using that quite often. And that's the Freemason sign of power, the Illuminati, the triangle of power. There he is, another one, Trump. Let me show you something else. Yep, Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, with Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. And the reason why I'm doing this is to show you, I can sit here and type in all the different presidents and prime ministers. You can find the Chinese president over there. You can even find the Ukraine, Zelensky. In fact, he's a big puppet from there. And actually, Zelensky is before he was put in there as the puppet in Ukraine, he was an actor. He is an actor. And basically, that's what politicians are. Politicians are actors. And they're playing a part. It's their gimmick. And this is the thing that people got to understand. Prime ministers and politicians really don't have that much power. They're just figureheads. Just like Trump, he's just a figurehead. Biden, which was an obvious, playing the part of a senile president. They're all just puppets. They're told what to do. Have you ever noticed their speeches are written for them? So they're up there giving speeches, telling people what they're told to say. That's just how it works. This is the thing that people got to understand, because one of the main motivations for me to be showing this and trying to explain this, especially to the American people, is that we've got to quit putting our support behind these people. First of all, they are just puppets. They're members of secret societies. They're controlled by the Illuminati. They're told what to say and do. They don't come in there with their own agendas. They're put in there in the first place, and they just play a part. They just play a gimmick. So when we look at what's going on right now, and this is something that I see, and I'm seeing so much division happening because of it, with the Trump administration, and we look at this government shutdown and all the division that's coming from it. And people just think that, they trust their political parties. So in the political parties, what they're doing is they're blaming the other party for the government shutdown. And we're seeing where people are starting to not get the benefits and people that are on food stamps and government assistance, whether you agree with that or not. People are going to go hungry. People are starting to suffer. They're going to suffer. Lots of innocent people. Now, I'm totally against government. I believe that taxation is theft, it's extortion, and I don't support it in any way whatsoever. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a voter. And if I go to label myself anything, I would call myself a voluntarist, which is basically an anarchist. And anarchy is not what we've been taught anarchy is. You know, they call these people out there in riots and going out there burning buildings down and all that kind of stuff. They call that anarchy, which that's not anarchy. Those are usually just Marxist agents out there doing the dirty work for the powers that be. Anarchist comes from a Greek word, and it simply means no rollers. And I have the view that I don't believe that anybody has the right to tell other people how to live and what to do, and to regulate their rights and freedoms, which usually consist of taking them away and putting the boot on people's throats. Nobody, in my opinion, has the right to do that. I don't care who you are. And it's just like I don't have the right to take away your rights and freedoms just because I want to. I don't believe anybody else has that right. But that's a whole other story. But what I'm saying is I just want to point out I don't support either party. Neither one of them has the legitimate right to rule over the people, because that's all they do is take away rights and freedom. And like I said, these politicians anyway are just nothing more than puppets. But that's what people believe in. And they support. So what these political parties are doing, both parties are on the same team. They're controlled by the Illuminati. And they are both pushing the New World Order for one world government and all the other things that go along with it. All the agendas that they have for the New World Order. And here's what is planned. This is the political and economic ideology of the New World Order is what's called technocracy. And technocracy is the form of government that they have in China right now. And it's artificial intelligence controlling everything. And you would not believe what kind of slavery system that they have in China now, which China has been the model for the rest of the world. This is what they want. But for an example, they have what's called a social credit system in China, where there's surveillance cameras, millions of surveillance cameras everywhere. And they're designed where they do facial recognition so they can find anybody at any point in time, anywhere, within just minutes. And they know what you're doing. And it polices people. Not only spies on them, but it polices people. So they will control people and their behavior through this means. And for an example, this is just one example that I've used a million times. Say that a person is jaywalking. Well, these cameras pick up the facial recognition. They identify who you are. And instead of sending a policeman go to write you a ticket for jaywalking, guess what happens? It automatically comes out of your account. The fine automatically comes out of your account. And you're penalized. So, that required no human involvement, all computer, all artificial intelligence, taking away from your account that's tied into the social credit system. And the plan is for everybody to be on universal basic income. Have you noticed the theme for quite a while of how artificial intelligence is taking away everybody's jobs and how they foresee that happening in every industry? in just about every institution. I saw where Amazon is laying off a lot of corporate workers, which doesn't break my heart. But the thing about it is they're being replaced by artificial intelligence. And we see this happening in every industry. And it's planned to get worse and worse and worse. So what they plan to do, and I remember seeing this being pushed by somebody that was running for president. It was that Asian guy. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but he was pushing this for what's called universal basic income. Since there's not going to be any jobs and AI is going to be taking almost every job there is, the plan is to put everybody on what's called universal basic income, to where everybody will get a set amount of credits, not even cash. In fact, they plan on doing away with cash. And so people will get credits, which will expire. You can't save them. So it's not like you can save up and have any wealth or, set back some money for a rainy day. That'll be done away with. But everybody will get a certain amount of credits, say 1,000 credits. And everything's going to be tied into it. Your behavior is going to be tied into it. Just like, like I said, talking about, use the example of the facial recognition cameras and the jaywalking and everything. But everything's going to be tied into this, to where it's going to monitor your carbon footprint. So if you go and do something extra that requires transportation or anything, heating your home, it'll track your carbon footprint and take out from your credits. If you even, it's planned to get so extreme that, and this is happening in China now, if you are caught associating with somebody that the government doesn't like, they will take credits from you. Also, your credits are going to be determined based upon your vaccination status. So if you don't get the vaccinations that the government wants you to have, guess what? Yeah, they're going to take it out of your credits. That's the whole purpose of the social credit system. And again, this is what they have in China. China, like I said, has been the model that the Illuminati has used, because this is the form of government that they have planned for the rest of the world, for their one world government. And that's why they're pushing for central bank digital currency. They're going to do away with cash, and everything will be digital. And that will change the world. And then when it'll go from being money to being credits. And you will have a certain amount of credits for a certain amount of time, say a certain amount for a month, and you can't save them. You either use them or lose them. And this is a slavery system that is worse than any dystopian novel has ever written about. I mean, it makes the novel 1984, George Orwell, 1984, look like a total freedom. And this is what they got planned. And so guess what? We got this shutdown here in America, the government shutdown. This is being used. One of the things that they're doing, and I see all these goober conservatives cheering on the fact that they're firing government workers. Well, and even Trump, talking about he's going to abolish the IRS and abolish, this and that, the Department of Education and blah, 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 which, doesn't break my heart. In fact, abolish the IRS, that'd be great. But guess what? When he says that, it's not like they're not going to keep taking taxes out from you. They're taking the human factor out of it. And again, this is technocracy. Technocracy is like I said, it's a political and economic ideology. It's not communism. It's definitely not capitalism. In fact, free market capitalism is the thing that they have been aiming to destroy for a while. And when it comes to the New World Order is not going to be a communist form of ideology. Communism was designed by the Illuminati, and communism has just been the stepping stone. The New World Order political and economic ideology is technocracy. And technocracy, just some of the details that I just gave you about the social credit system, the universal basic income, central bank digital currency, so on and so on, surveillance, the surveillance state. This is all technocracy controlled by artificial intelligence. That is the agenda. That's part of the reason why what this government shutdown is being used for. And firing government workers and replacing them with artificial intelligence. And they're going to keep doing this until they get what they want. And they're going to get it. Because people just cannot wake up and see that these political parties are a joke. These political parties, these politicians are puppets. They serve their masters, the Illuminati, which are Satan's minions. It's a cult. And sadly, like I said earlier, these political parties are pushing the New World Order. The Democrat Party here in America pushes the New World Order. They stress and emphasize certain parts of the agenda of the New World Order. And then the Republican Party does the same, but they emphasize certain things that Democrats don't seem to emphasize as much. But what happens is, and how this plays out, is that as they're pushing the New World Order through these political parties and people, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and they're applauding and supporting the part of the New World Order that political party highly emphasizes. And so when it switches over to the other party, that party pushes the parts of the New World Order that they emphasize the most, while they have the other half of the population cheering them on. And what amazes me about Donald Trump and his supporters and his haters, it's the biggest bunch of hypocrisy I've ever seen in my entire life. Because Trump, Democrats should love him. Democrat voters should love him because he's been doing everything that traditionally Democrats seem to favor. Things like vaccinations. Trump's pushed, he said he's the father of the vaccine, has bragged about it. And, then pushed gun control and red flag laws. Trump's, and I've shared this soundbite where Trump literally says, take the guns first and worry about due process later. And it doesn't even faze his supporters. It's just like, what in the world is wrong with you? How brainwashed are you? And Democrats be like, oh, Trump's he mean tweets and says mean things and he's a racist and blah, blah, blah. Which is if that's what you're worried about, of all the evil that Trump is doing, and you're worried about silly little things like that, I'm sure I despise the man more than most Democrats do, but at least it's for the right reasons. And these political parties, their politicians, they get their supporters will defend them, make excuses for them, or just overlook certain things that they do. And again, the thing that people need to understand is what these politicians are doing. Just like what's been happening under Trump. Trump is not the one. This is not his agenda. He's the puppet. He's the cue card reader. He's the one that's reading off the teleprompter and saying what he's being told to say. He's doing what his handlers are telling him to do. Because he was put there. And I tell you what, in 2020, if Hillary Clinton had been president in 2020, and if she would have been the one behind shutting the country down and pushing vaccines and shutting businesses down and forcing private businesses to close their doors while keeping big corporations open, it wouldn't have happened with Hillary Clinton in there. You know why? Because conservatives would have actually done enough mass civil disobedience and mass noncompliance, and it wouldn't have happened. But since Trump's in there, well, guess what happened? They went along with it. You know, some conservatives didn't like it too well, some of the things that happened under Trump, but they made excuses for him and tried to act like, that was Fauci's fault. And, but the thing about it is, the agenda, the New World Order agenda is going to happen. It doesn't matter who it is. So you're not going to vote your way out of this. Votes don't matter. They don't even count your votes. And it's not going to change that way. You may think, if we just get the next, get another president in there, then no, that's not going to make any difference whatsoever. The New World Order is going to happen. It doesn't matter who is in there or what political party is in there, because they're all puppets and they're all controlled by the same cabal. That's the thing that people got to understand. So how can we stop it? Is there a solution to this? Well, when I look at the amount of ignorance, for one, people that have absolutely no idea of anything that I've just talked about, and they think it's a conspiracy theory, and I look at people making excuses and thinking certain politicians are going to change things for the best. And if people are going to continue on with that way of thinking, well, it's going to, their agenda is going to happen then. So how can we keep this from happening? Well, first of all, people need to understand how the world really works, who's really behind it, and realize and understand all the psychological operations and false flags that they do to turn people against each other. And if they will quit seeing other Americans as being the enemy and understand who the real enemy is, and to quit supporting puppets that have absolutely no power whatsoever, who are just gophers and script readers and script followers, then we might have a chance. But the big thing is don't comply. That's the only way that this can be combated. And at this point, I don't know if it can be stopped. But one of the most powerful things that we can do is pray. Prayer. Pray. Just pray for God to... Here's my prayer. I pray and I say, God, please intervene in this world. Please, put an end to tyranny and the tyrants in this cult. Please intervene. Please wake people up. Please bring people to an awakening and a repentance to turn. And to put an end to all the indoctrination and social conditioning that's been going on. And for God to intervene. That's the only hope that we really have at this point. And I don't know of any other solutions, but I know one thing's for sure. Voting is not a solution. It's part of the problem. Because all your support for a political party does is give more power to the beast system. That's all it does. It makes no difference whatsoever, because they're going to do what they have planned to do. And so anyway, that's just some information I wanted to share. I don't know if this video will even survive the censorship of YouTube. I'm going to try it. And, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, just put them in the comment section. I'm sure I'll be so shadow banned that nobody's probably ever going to even hear this. But, I haven't been speaking out on this for quite a while, and I just feel the need that something's got to be done. So anyway, if you want, I'll leave a link in the description box below to all my books, all my published books. I've got 3 books that I wrote and published on the Illuminati. The first one's The Handbook on the Powers That Should Not Be. The second one is The Antichrist and His Cult. And the third one is the Illuminati Playbook, which was the last one I did. I highly recommend those books. And, people need to learn this stuff, and they need to understand what's really going on. And quit living this illusion. If there has to be an awakening and a repentance and a turning to God, because God is, these are the enemies of God that are behind us. And so anyway, I appreciate you all. Take care. Have a good day.